All right, man. I'm really excited about this. Finally here with Tito Raymond, a longtime friend, a longtime trainer at Gold's, and according to Mike O'Hearn, the greatest training partner he's ever had. And I think that has a lot of value and holds a lot of weight because I've seen Mike O'Hearn train with probably like a few hundred people since the time I've known him.
Right.
He's really put people through the ringer, and then people stay the hell away from him for a long time.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I say the same thing about Mike. You know, it's a really close battle between Mike and my brother as my training partners. But, you know, Jose knows that I put in some good 8 years with Mike.
Yeah.
And, you know, I put in probably 20 with my brother. But
are you still throwing around some weights like that, or are you training a little different nowadays?
I train a lot differently. I still I touch, you know, those heavy weights, you know, frequently just to make sure that I can do it.
Right.
You know, and if I do anything, I like to do more volume with it. So I'll push my weight for like 10 reps. I like to see, you know, what I can do for 10 reps.
Right.
Like now my big goal was 405 for 10, you know, and I just hit that a couple weeks ago on a deadlift.
On overhead press, right?
And I'm trying to do that on the squat, but I want to keep my volume up. I'm not so concerned with like a 3 rep max or a 1 rep max.
Gotcha. Yeah, you want to still have some strength, right?
Of course, yeah.
And then you dabbled in some CrossFit for a while.
I did for about 4 years. I was getting bored.
It's tough, man. CrossFit's hard, right?
And I wish it was around 20 years ago. When,
yeah.
You know, because that's a young man's game. It's a 20-something-year-old, you know, that can handle the recovery from the training.
Right.
I love a lot of the concepts of it. I still use it regularly myself in my training, and I also train my clients that way.
Now, you and your brother have an interesting situation. You guys were adopted, right?
Yeah, we were adopted when I was 14, almost 15 years old. But
that's kind of rare too, right? To be like who wants to take on a bunch of teenagers,
right? 2 older kids. Well, the family that we were adopted by, we were temporary with them when I was younger, from when I was 5 till I was about 8.
Oh, okay.
And so Jose was a couple weeks old. He was
right,
and until he was about 3. And then our parents won us back, my biological parents, and you know, we were with them for 3 years, and then the state took us back away, and it took a couple of years to get back to Wakefield, to the family that, you know, we lived with prior. And when we got back probably when I was about 11 or 12, and the legal adoption went through by the time I was 15. So I was a freshman in high school when I got adopted.
And you and your brother always stayed together, pretty much, or no?
We were separated after. It's crazy because my parents biologically they were alcoholics, and they had 3 young children: my brother, my sister, and I. And you know, my mother attempted suicide several times.
Wow.
And so after her last attempt, the state decided they were going to take us away permanently, and my parents kidnapped us and took us to Chicago.
Shit.
And we were in Chicago for about 2 years, and then
how old are you during this period?
9, 10, 11,
and
right in that area.
You don't really know what's going on, or you kind of know that mom and dad are off?
I was very mature from my 9, 10, 11, you know?
Yeah, you tend to have intuition when older people are doing something that's not right when you're a kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, my parents, they fought each other. My mother was a little crazy. She beat the hell out of us.
Yeah.
And you know, when they would come and visit, they'd send somebody to a social worker or something to the house to check on us. And they see us with bruises, whatever, and they were like, okay, this is not a good situation for these kids.
Right.
And I remember the day that they had police, so undercover police officers that came and pulled my father over in Chicago when they kidnapped us and brought us to Chicago. And they pulled him over for a driving thing, and just to find out, to see if that was the family that they were looking for. And the very next day, there were 10 police officers at my school coming to pick me up.
Was it just you and your brother, or is there
me, my brother, my sister?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that must have been a confusing childhood to try to make sense of that. But the whole time you're involved in sports and doing other things too?
Not yet. All that was, I wasn't involved with sports until I was about 12.
At home was too like busted up and broken
we
for
were
you to
living
figure out.
in the ghetto. We were, what do you call those people that live in broken down buildings? Squatters.
Yeah.
We were squatters. We were living there. We, you know, parents on welfare and food stamps and all that. I remember all that clearly. You know, even though I was pretty young, Jose wouldn't remember that because he was like under 5.
Right.
You know.
Did you have to grow up fast?
Yeah.
You had to kind of take care of him, and then is your sister older or younger? Or?
She's in between us.
Okay.
Directly in between.
So you were.
Her story was different. Like the family that adopted us in Wakefield in Massachusetts, 20 minutes from Boston, they couldn't adopt. They were gonna adopt my sister as well, but they had another child that was the same age, and it was they didn't get along. Right. So another family had adopted my sister, but they didn't want her to have contact with us and to know any of her other biological siblings.
Sounds like this is a book.
It's crazy. It really, you know,
I mean, there's a movie out there right now in the movie theater called 3 Identical Twins. Have you heard about it?
No.
Yeah, it's really popular. It's taken off. It just got released a couple days ago. I don't know the exact story, but I would imagine that it probably sounds a little something like this.
Yeah, I mean,
where the kids get shifted around a lot. I think these children didn't even know about each other. That's how crazy this story is.
Oh, they were all separated and they didn't know about each other.
They were all separated at a very young age, and they started finding out one by one about each other. They're like, "Oh, you got a twin." They're like, "No, actually, you're triplets."
Wow, that's awesome. I'd go see it.
Yeah, pretty wild, right? Yeah, I think it's in the theaters now. I mean, there's a lot that you must have learned to try to like deflect. Like you and your brother, and your sister. Are you guys like covering up with humor? Are you guys like figuring out ways of like messing around? Or are you getting in trouble? Or
you know what? When we were younger, our outlet was sports.
Right.
And I know for myself that my outlet was sports. And at 12 years old, I started in the iron game. I was too small to play football. They wanted me in 8th grade to play with 6th and 7th graders. And I was
probably because you were like fast and fairly athletic, but you weren't strong enough.
I was 85 pounds.
Yeah, you were strong enough.
And you had to be 100 pounds to play on the A team. And so my parents had to sign liability waivers and release them from anything happen, you know. And that winter I got my first weight set, and I made a gym in my basement and watched every Rocky movie, and after every movie I went down in the basement and hit the weights and hit the heavy bag.
And at that point, is this your like foster parents or your?
This was at the time. This was my foster family.
Right.
They were my foster family that eventually adopted us.
And were they supportive of some of the stuff you guys were trying to do?
You know, at that time they were. You know, especially when we were into sports, and if it wasn't for them, I would have never probably got into the iron game. So if I was living somewhere else and maybe they didn't think that it was a priority to get me a weight set, But that's the one thing they did. Unfortunately, is that, a year after they legally adopted us, they divorced. Oh. And that's when, all the shit hit the fan then, because I was a sophomore in high school and my parents were divorced, and my mother decided she was going to go, start a new life. And so we didn't have any parental upbringing,
So all that stuff happened when you were young, right? And now you're an adult and you have to figure out, how do I not carry all that weird baggage with me? How do I live my life? You have your own wife, you got your own kids now, and you got to be an adult. You got to be a good citizen, right? You have a lot of responsibilities. You're training people, coaching people, inspiring people. How do you kind of let go? Like, was there a point where you sort of let go of all that shit, or have you always just been like driven from it?
I've always been driven from it, I think. And I think having a mental fortitude and staying mentally strong. And I remember as early as 11 years old, I think I lived with a foster family in between my parents and the family that adopted me in Boston. This was a transitioning phase, but it was about 2 years. I think it was 4th and 5th grade. I lived with a family that was from Georgia. It was an African-American family. I was the only non-African-American person in the neighborhood. And I remember like wanting to leave and running away. And I attempted to run away one night. I left. I remember it was dark out, and I went just down the block.
Great. When you're that age, you got big plans,
right?
Until you get down the street.
I got down the street and I climbed the tree, and then I sat up in the tree for about 2 hours 3 hours. And I remember I was going to sleep in the tree. And then I started thinking about squirrels coming and biting me, while I was falling asleep, or me falling out of the tree. Right. And so I went back to the house. And I remember in that time was, a good amount of time that I had to think about what's going on now in my life and where I want to be. I remember just wanting to be with my family.
Right.
And after about 3 hours, I came down off the tree and went back home and took the beating, because, it wasn't like a beating from my biological parents. It was like a discipline beating. Like I deserved that, was a hit with the switch.
Right.
And the family that I lived with was really good to me. And it was, like I said, it was 2 years. And then I went back to Wakefield.
Man, that is wild to have to deal with all that stuff at such a young age. To have to deal with it almost sounds like you were going through like your own form of therapy.
Oh.
As you were going through it. Are you religious?
I don't know anybody else that has been baptized 3 times, but I have. And a lot of it is because I was, Puerto Rican family. They baptize you right when you're born. Then when I was with that family in Wakefield temporarily as a 5 to 8-year-old, I was baptized then. And then again, when I was with the family from Georgia, they were Southern Baptists. So I got baptized again, and that was a different way. That was just dunking in a tank.
Yeah.
And I used to go to church with that family religiously, once, twice a week. My biological father was he was a guy, volunteer at the church, very religious. We had pictures and crosses all around the house, from a young age. But as an adult, I had a bad instance in high school, freshman year in high school, when you get confirmed. I don't know if you've got confirmed or not, but that's when it happens, like at 14 years old. The priest that was at my church, he wanted to punish me because on Halloween night, we all skipped CCD, right? And I had perfect attendance going up to this point, and the priest wanted to make an example out of me, so he prevented me from getting confirmed. And to me, it was like a graduation, and he was preventing me from graduating. And because he thought I was the leader of my friends, and if I was there, they would have all come. Right? And it's like, it's Halloween. Yeah. A 14-year-old is a 14-year-old, no matter who's leading. And so
you want to get some candy.
After that point, I stopped going to church. I didn't stop believing. I still believe. I have strong beliefs. I'm very spiritual. I don't know if I would say I'm super religious, but I'm very spiritual.
I feel I'm the same way. Like, do unto others, they would do unto you.
100%.
Be good to people that are good to you. And there's no reason to sit around and boil up a bunch of animosity and hate people and run around like a lunatic.
It's wasted energy.
Yeah, it's just a lot of negative energy. What I always share on this podcast, and I've been sharing this for the last 5 years since I've had this podcast. People ask me questions all the time about success, because they see the nice cars, they see I'm staying here in Malibu, and I've acquired some financial success and definitely acquired some success in the powerlifting community and things of that nature. But what I always tell people, what I always share with them is like, keep in mind that this is advice coming from me, and I didn't start where you started. I didn't start where you started. I didn't start where some of the people that are listening started. So it's all perspective. Like you had to overcome a lot of these things. But what I also share with people, it doesn't matter if your mom died when you were 8. It doesn't matter if your parents were abusive. It doesn't matter if they were alcoholics. It's an unfortunate thing to say, but it doesn't matter. When you're an adult, you still have to behave the correct way, and you still have to try to get on a path that leads you to happiness. Because if you sat around mad all day about your parents, you just told me that you call your mom, you talk to your brother every day. It seems like the family is still, even though there was a lot of dysfunction early on, it still seems like there's some good communication nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. And that train of thought, that way of thinking, I feel like I've had that since I was 10 years old.
That's crazy.
I think I had to grow up a lot faster. And we talk about this all the time is, we have 2 young boys, 12 and 13 and 9. And, we shelter them a little bit from stuff, but we're also like, my kid's going to grow up street smart. you know,
Yeah.
and that street smart's gonna kind of help them in school as well. And I think I was very street smart from a young age, and that really helped me to absorb knowledge and information. I was a sponge, and I just wanted, you know, other than what I had.
Also, too, like that, I know, you know, I'm from the East Coast as well, and I know you could have some knucklehead friends that go down the wrong path. You must have saw a lot of that too.
Yeah, I had a couple of them, and they turned their, you know, their act around.
Right.
But
and even some of those guys, they grow up with a nice house, they grow up with a nice family.
Yeah.
Mom and dad take them to baseball. They go to every baseball game, every practice. They have everything they need. And then there they are, you know, selling marijuana and selling God knows what, and
doing heroin.
Yeah, raising hell and getting in trouble. And,
PCP,
yeah,
cocaine addictions. Yeah, I've had a lot of my friends coming up that had issues with it, and I'm glad to say that the good friends of mine that had the issues with that, they overcame them, and they're on the other side of that.
This is something that we have to talk about because this is probably the highlight of your career, at least in my opinion, it's the highlight of your career. You are married to Amy Fodley.
Yes, I am.
A fitness model who everybody knows about. Anybody who, you know, saw the magazines, early 2000s, probably, maybe late 90s.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that category.
Yeah.
How did you meet her?
Solid for about 10 years. I think she was the it girl. And we met, I was under contract with a supplement company from Budapest, Hungary, called SciTech Nutrition. They're here now in the States. And we had a big 2-week shooting, commercial shooting, you know, print stuff. And they were doing a big video and they needed a couple other models. And I had actually requested, because I had never worked with Amy, and I had worked with all the other girls, but I'd never worked with Amy, and I wanted to work with her. Some of the stuff that I knew about her, I'd heard about her, seemed really interesting. She's super smart. She was from Texas. She loved animals, you know.
Cool.
And so the day that we shot here in Malibu. And it was up in
there you go. Look at that.
It was awesome. It was at Zuma Beach, right down the street.
We were just there yesterday.
And I sat down, laid down next to where she was getting her hair and makeup done. You know, and that's an hour process. Right. So I could spy on them, you know, and listen to what's going on. And she was so funny. She's such a like a woman's woman.
Right.
You know, very empowering to other women. She's beautiful and she's funny, and
still in great shape. She's still jacked and tan.
Yeah, she's still jacked and tan, absolutely. And she's been you know, just a natural athlete her whole life. She rode horses growing up. Her upbringing and my upbringing totally opposite, and so you know, for us to make the connection and to be married and have our own family. Is wonderful.
You guys must help each other out a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because like some of the struggles that you had and maybe some of the things that she grew up with, it must really help a lot with raising the children, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the way it's like yin and yang, you know, we balance each other out completely.
Now, do you want to coddle the kids more, or does she want to coddle the kids more?
I think
who's in trouble? Who's in trouble in that area?
You know what? I have to be. Yeah. That's my role, is to be the bad guy.
Okay.
You know, she's with them so much. She is really the boss, and the kids will tell you that.
Right.
I don't know whose household with a wife isn't the boss.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, my kids, they could care less if I get mad.
That's, you know.
But it's rare for me to get mad, so then you know something's wrong, you know?
Yeah.
If I have to get mad at them.
Right.
You know, it is a bigger deal. But my wife, she's got these like looks. Like she'll just look at the kids, and the kids are like, "Okay, I'm done.
Mine's the same.
I'm done doing what I was doing."
Yeah.
I don't know how women get that, but yeah, they straighten up quick.
Yeah, my kids realize that. It's you know, the way that my brother and I, you look at Amy and the way we, you know, grew up looking at her in the magazines and watching and knowing who she is, a strong woman, beautiful woman. My kids are their reality of women are gonna be a little warped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because not every woman is like this.
Yeah, or even you and your brother. I mean, your brother's on the Mr. Olympia stage every single year. I mean, there must have been a conversation between you and your brother about, hey, you know that fitness girl that you see on the cover of all the magazines? Yeah. Like, I'm with her now.
You know what? That day that we met, my brother was there with me.
Oh, okay.
And I think that had a lot to do with it because we were together the whole time through with the SciTech thing. And he was actually painfully holding the reflector, on the girls, so the sun shined properly on them. And I think that anybody who knows me knows how close me and my brother are. And for me to have a relationship and to be able to go forward with a girl, she'd have to really make that good connection with my brother.
Right.
And it was hilarious because them two are very similar. And
that's cool.
And the night that we hung out, it was like the two of them were just going back and forth with each other. And I was sitting back watching it all happen. And
you're like, this is laying down some good groundwork. I like where this is going. It was
really good. Yeah.
Your brother is 240 or 250 pounds?
Yeah, he's 230 right now. I think he's only about 7 weeks from the Olympia.
Okay, but he'll get up to maybe 250.
Yeah, in the off season, he'll get up there. He's 5'3", 200. And I've seen him up at 255.
Who's taller? You got him by a few.
I'm taller. I got like 4 inches almost.
You can dunk on his ass.
I had 4 inches on him.
You can dunk on him, right?
I think I was the tallest. I think I was about 5'7" and 5/8". And I must have had shoes on because I got.
That's a PR for you.
Yeah, that is a PR. I think
most people don't have PRs with their height.
I've been shrinking.
You've been shrinking. Well, maybe it's all those squats all those years. I mean, you were moving around some big weights. What kind of weight were you hitting?
Well, when I was training with Mike, I think we really hit our peak, and I was doing 500 for 10. With nobody spotting me. Yeah. And I think your brother tells the story about one day him seeing me do 500 pounds and he was in total shock.
Well, rock bottom too, squats. I mean, you guys are you're not doing no bullshit squat. You guys are doing a real squat. A lot of times with no belt too.
Yeah. And at that time too, I was out of the rack. I was fully confident that I didn't need a spot. I didn't need to, I wasn't going to bail.
No knee wraps or anything, right?
No knee wraps, no belt, no. But back then I was 205 pounds, 210 pounds. That was the heaviest I ever got. I didn't like it. Anybody who knows me knows that
Were you still kind of lean then or no?
No, I was. I mean, I had abs, but I was bloated.
I mean, I don't really remember seeing you not lean, but I probably started coming into the picture maybe a little bit later when I started coming out here, maybe.
Yeah, that was. I'm trying to think when that was, but I think it was probably 2001.
Okay.
2002. I took a year off from competing. I took the 1 year off of the USAs, and I wanted to try to put on some muscle, and so we put on a lot of weight, and I was unable to do my normal hiking and walk up a flight of stairs. I was out of breath. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel healthy, and so that was the only time that I ever went up that high in my weight. But it was obvious, massive strength gains.
Right. You like to do a lot of different things. We mentioned a little bit about CrossFit. You showed me a crazy video where you were swinging on these bars down in Venice. You like to go in the ocean. You like to swim. You like to hike. What are you more than anything else? If there is one thing overpowering anything, would you say, because you told me you competed in bodybuilding like 60 times or something.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's kind of the base of everything? Even though you power lifted and did some other things too?
I think I'm going to go back to when I was 12 to 17 years old. I was just an athlete wanting to be better, and back then there wasn't a whole lot of resources and there wasn't a whole lot of ways, but I researched and I went out and I found out what the pros were doing, and, pushing cars, running up hills,
Old school. I like that.
That's what and I just wanted to be better at track and field, at baseball, at football. I wanted to dunk, and at 5'7", that was a near impossibility. I could dunk a tennis ball.
Spud Webb.
And those things I really wanted to achieve, and I worked hard to try to do that. And as a result, I think I started bodybuilding when I was 19 years old.
Isn't that crazy? I remember training for stuff like that too. Like when I saw other people dunk, I was like, I want to figure that out. And I tried to train for it. I'd do sprints and bounding and, there was obviously no cell phones and video games weren't as big of a thing.
Right.
And you just, I'd go to the track with a friend and there might've been 5 or 6 of us.
Oh yeah.
And training the same way I train today, kind of doing. all this crazy stuff just to try to improve upon stuff
yourself,
that I don't even know what it's for.
Right.
Because no one really cares, right? No one gives a shit if you dunk a basketball, right?
No. In high school, one thing that from the benefit from being adopted and being able to grow up in 20 minutes outside of Boston in a town called Wakefield was pride. That was something that they instilled in me at an early age.
So this was a certain set of parents that did that?
It's the community, the school, the football coach, the coaching staff. Was
I would
pride.
say I hear the same kind of thing coming from like Mark Wahlberg. I hear the same kind of thing coming from John Cena.
Yeah,
John and his brothers too. Like they all train and they all have like just a particular way about them where they're going to be consistent. They're going to figure out ways of getting stuff done. Yeah. So it's kind of that. Yeah. And even the Patriots carry that on.
It shows. I mean that one word right there, pride. Having pride in what you do on a daily basis. Having pride in the outcome of what you're doing and how it affects everybody else around you, and having accountability for it as well.
What do you think?
We used to have a shirt for our football team that said, "Tough times don't last, tough people do."
Yeah.
And I still have that shirt.
That's awesome.
And then in the name of our football camp, during the double sessions, that would be called Pride Football Camp.
Right. Yeah, have pride in what you're doing and always try to hustle and always realize that people are always watching you.
Yeah.
You never want to kind of let off that gas pedal.
Yeah.
What do you think was the highlight of your bodybuilding career after competing?
I got to tell you that there were several. I've been a drug-free athlete my whole life. I competed in a show that was called the Team Universe. It's still out now, but it was the only drug-tested event that was national. And I just wanted to go as far as I could. And I thought,
did you ever mess with steroids, or did you ever think about them, or they just for you they just weren't something that you were really interested in?
It was I was never really interested in it. I looked at the stigma of it, and I didn't feel prideful of it. I knew some guys from the gym.
Right.
They were complete idiots that were on, and they were like the bad role people.
You didn't like the way they acted. Probably, I mean, some of these guys too that take stuff. I think everybody thinks you're just going to take stuff and you're going to have this wonderful build.
Right. No.
A lot of guys are built like shit because they're not putting the training in the right way.
Exactly.
They're not eating correctly.
Exactly. And that was when I was 15 years old. Joined my first gym, and those are the kind of things that I saw. And we had one or two guys on our football team that over the summer blew up, but they were injured. They never played, and they weren't an asset to our team.
Right.
They might have been the biggest dude on the team and could squat and bench press the most, but they didn't it didn't have no effect on our team.
Right.
And so again, I thought that was a failure in my eyes, and so I really didn't have a desire to go there. And on top of it is I was fully confident and mentally strong and feeling like I could do it. I could do without it.
Right. You feel like you can get stronger and better without it. Was there always a drive to do better than other people, especially training with like Mike O'Hearn, regardless of what somebody did or how big they were? Because Mike is a big boy.
Mike is the biggest and strongest guy at Gold's Gym at any given day in any era.
Yeah, and how long? I mean, 30 years, right?
In any era. I'm talking, you go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And in the future, Mike is a rare breed. He's a unicorn. And,
I was thinking about that actually today when we got done with our training session. I was like, because we had a 25-year-old kid come in and train with us, and Mike's attitude was a little different today. And I think it was smother this kid, pound and ground, like just get him on the ground and pound the shit out of him, and like just don't even give him a second to breathe.
Don't give him a second to breathe.
So Mike starts curling, I think 4 25s on each side, whatever the hell amount of weight that is. I mean, it's a cheat curl, right?
Yeah.
But he gets into that quick. He's not really warming up a whole lot. He does his singles and but he's there before that kid can like turn his head around.
Right.
The kid's trying to warm up his elbows or whatever.
It's awesome to watch that.
Yeah, and he's piling weights on, and then it was boom, 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 on to the next thing. And we must have done 10 or 12 sets of a bunch of different exercises. We just stayed there and kept going and kept going. And I, in my head, I was kind of thinking like, maybe he's like, maybe he's a little off today. Like maybe he's like grumpy. But then as we went through it and I thought about it more, I was like, it's because that kid's here.
Yeah.
He's trying to shovel dirt on top of this kid.
He wants to bury him and let him know I'm twice your age, pal. Don't even think that you're in my league. You know?
He absolutely dismantled this kid. But I also was thinking like Mike is 50 or something, right?
He's close to it. He won't tell you. It's a mystery. Right? It's a mystery.
He likes having those mysteries, the duck eggs and the other weird things that surround him, the frog thing, and people are always talking about him taking stuff or whatever. But what I thought was really cool about today is just how he just jumped on that kid right away. And he does that to us in the training sessions too. And every once in a while, because you train with him a long time, you'll catch him and you'll see him down a little bit, but 2 days later, he got his sleep, he got his food in, and then he's hard to mess with after that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought even you can break him down. It could be, he's mentally tough, and I think that's a big plus. And you look at Mike, and all you do is see his physical, good looking, built like a goddess, right? God, but mentally tough. That's why he's there. Right. That's why he's there at 50 years old.
Yeah, and the other thing I was thinking was like, man, I wonder 5 years, 8 years, 10 years,
no, he's only going to get better. He really, it would be a different thing if he had 2 kids. Right. It would be a different thing. Like you and I know this feeling. We're on a different highway, right? Yeah. Mike is still down in the highway with those young 20-somethings. Yeah. Thinking that they got something, right? And then it's awesome that they have Mike to put them in their place. Well,
those guys aren't going to prep the way he's prepping because he's taking each training session as if he's stepping onto the Mr. Olympia stage, right?
Dude, he's been doing it for 30 years. Not I'm telling you, what he does now, he's been doing it forever.
I've been even trying to think of some animals. I'm like, I could throw this guy his way, and I could throw this guy, and I'm like, that really won't work that well,
No, I've challenged Mike in different ways, and this is why I think Mike says that, that I was the best training partner he had. Besides the fact that he was 100 pounds heavier than me, he looks at it like, if he's doing that, then I have to do this. Yeah. And I would drive him on every set. I would drive him. I see these partners now, and they're too tired to give him a hard time. Yeah. And I was on Mike, Mike, what are you resting for? Let's go.
Well, he'll do stuff to you that's funny because he'll say leg extensions, right? We warm up with leg extensions before you squat or something. And you might be in the middle of doing some reps and you're just trying to get your knees warm. And you just saw him get off there. He did 6 reps. He's 20 reps. Yeah. And you're like, you're just, okay, I'm training with him. It's his rules. Okay, whatever. And you bang out 3 sets of 20. By the time you get over, he wouldn't have kicked his ass in the squat rack anyway.
Anyways, right.
But he's fatiguing the crap out of you. He's trying to take every little advantage he can.
It's hilarious.
That Gold's Gym is amazing though, because I think Will Harris is 60 years old, isn't he?
He's close to it.
55, 60 years old.
That's a mystery too, buddy.
And he's massive. You got Robbie Robinson. I heard he's set in his 70s.
Robbie's awesome. He looks. You know what? I came out to Gold's Gym Venice. I visited a couple times in 93, 94, and then I'd come back out every year, and I stay a little bit longer every time. And then finally in 98, I was like, why am I going back to Boston? This is where I want to be. I was a personal trainer, for 6 years out of college, started, my own training business, and it was really good for 6 months of the year. And then the other 6 months, everybody would hibernate. And so for me to have a future and to be able to save and to be able to be successful, I needed to be year round. And so I wanted to wait for my brother to graduate college before I moved out and came out to California.
Because you guys were hanging out?
We were tight. I would come visit him at school all the time. And I just,
That's interesting. Cause I moved out here because of my brother. Right. My brother moved here and he and I were super close and we trained together all the time. And I was like, you can't leave me. What are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to film school. I got to,
Well,
I got to get education.
He was going to, he had gone to Dean Junior College and then he went into Plymouth State. And at Plymouth State, he walked on the football team and became the captain of the team by his senior year. He also jumped into the wrestling team and was a starting wrestler, one of their best wrestlers.
Do you have a wrestling background too?
I did in middle school, junior high, in high school.
You got a thick neck.
I should have. That's one regret. I wish I did play, because I love the game of basketball. Very athletic game. I just didn't have the height for it. But to me, even then, I was like, I don't care. I don't need the height.
Right.
I'll school you at 6'3", just like I'll school anybody. You know.
Right.
But I wasn't built for that. Everybody's trying to force me to wrestle.
Right.
And then I just said, you know what? Football's my sport. I want to do everything that's going to make me better at football. So I ran track instead of playing basketball or wrestling. I ran indoor track and outdoor track.
Kids don't have that today, you know, like the NFL has such a bad stigma about it. Sports have also been tarnished by drugs and a lot of the guys getting in trouble. And there's just been a lot of things swirling around sports in general, where I don't think it's the same as when we were kids. And you hear so many people, their weight training was masked by, I'm going to train because I want to do this, which is way different than I'm going to train just because I want bigger arms. Like, you're just not going to convince as many people of saying, hey, you know, if you do these exercises for the next 10 years, you'll start to like not look half bad. You know, it's like, it's not a good sales pitch, especially to your son who's like 13, to my son who's 15. This is going to make you healthier. It's like, they don't care about any of that. Like they're, you know, my son's pretty active, and obviously your son's very active. He's like a junior lifeguard or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, the kids aren't getting the same physical education as they used to.
You're right.
And it's a shame.
You're right. You know, you think about it back then, like we had PE every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And then it was, I don't know, 10 years after high school, like they started taking the programs away in arts and music. And what's going on? Like, these are the most important parts of school. Yeah. Right? Of physical education. And it still is. It's pathetic. Like, I think my kids, we go to El Segundo school district versus LA school district. And they have PE like 2 or 3 days a week. And it's just basically go out and play. It's like recess. I think when they get in high school, I think it's a little bit more aggressive. And, you know, I think that because, you know, I've been in the industry as a trainer for 27 years. And I train from 14-year-olds to 75-year-olds. And what we do is for everybody. Yeah. You know?
I don't think people realize that. Yeah. I don't think people understand. Like, we had one of the guys that's filming the movie that my brother and I are working on, our nutrition movie. He just recently got into training. He's never done anything. And I said, hey, look at how awesome today was. You did everything that we did. Yeah. I was like, think about, like, put that in perspective. You did every single thing that Mike O'Hearn did today. Yeah. And he's been training since he was 12, and he's almost 50 years old. Right. That's wild. Yeah. But like you said, there's something for everybody in there. And sometimes you may show somebody an exercise and they're like, hey man, like, that hurts my knee or that hurts my hip. Yeah. Well, what do? You just find another exercise.
Call an audible.
There's a lot of, I mean,
right on the line of scrimmage. Do, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, doing it for 27 years, I've come to see everything and be able to, you know, if you can't do this, there is something that you can do. I will find something that you can do that will give you the same effect that I'm trying to get out of using this other exercise. You know, I used to say, people say, are you a bodybuilder? Well, if I lift weights, yeah, I'm building my body. You know, everybody that steps into this gym is a bodybuilder. You know, whether you're at a high level bodybuilding or you're just beginning or somewhere in the middle. You're bodybuilding. You're trying to do something for yourself and for your body that is going to affect you physically and mentally.
That was Joe Weider's mentality. And that's part of the reason why he was so successful. He was like, anybody that steps, because they were like, oh, bodybuilding is like niche. And he's like, no, anybody that comes into the gym is building their body, just like you said. Yeah. And all those people became like customers, clients of his magazines and supplements.
Sure. Absolutely.
And the list of things that guy did goes on and on.
I think that we were a byproduct of Weider principles. And you know, because that's the only thing that we had. I remember, you know, being 15 years old and going to the magazine store, waiting for them to put the new issue of Muscle and Fitness out.
Oh,
and then the guy was like, "Oh, I didn't come in today. It'll be in tomorrow." And I'd come back the next day, waiting for my issue of Muscle and Fitness. And that was the only resource that I had. Because like you said, I didn't have a computer. There was nothing out that we could. And so every month I would be looking for the next issue. And most of the time, I may not even been able to buy it. I would just spend 2 hours in the magazine store reading it.
You ended up being in these magazines, right?
Yeah.
Did you get on the cover of some of them?
I did.
That's amazing.
Back to when you asked me about my highlights of bodybuilding. Well, one of them was definitely the cover of Muscle and Fitness, July 2007. And it was, I don't care about all the other magazines. I mean, as great as they are, all that mattered to me was Muscle and Fitness. And it just told you the backstory of it, that I would wait, 30 days for the magazine to come and run out there. And for me to be able to be on the cover of it, it was a huge accomplishment of mine that I always wanted to do. Marrying my wife is right up there. I should say that's probably number one.
Yeah.
But for bodybuilding accomplishments, I've been able to travel the world to compete in the world championships because of the Team Universe. I won the Team Universe 3 times. And after the third time, even some of the guys that work there, like, why are you even doing the show? Why you keep doing it? You've won it every time. Like, and I'm like, no, I didn't win it every time. I won it. I did it 11 times. And I won it 3 times.
Right.
And if the first 8 times I didn't win it.
Right.
And so I was coming back, and then it was the only event that was tested, right? And so I would compete in the USA's that wasn't tested, and the best that I came was 2nd place. And I felt like, if I could win the Team Universe, then I could win the USA's.
Yeah.
And but like winning the Team Universe 3 times, that was definitely a highlight. Going to the World Championships and representing the U.S., the closest thing that we could do is for Olympics. Right. It felt like it was the Olympics, right. Especially when we went to the World Championships, or the World Games in Japan. We get to travel to Bratislava, Slovakia, to compete in the World Championships. Osaka, Japan. And in Osaka, it was treated like the Olympics. We had other sports that were there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we had a parade of champions where we all came out with our USA uniforms and walked in a parade. That was right up there with the highlights.
There's so much involved in bodybuilding. You got the food prep. You have to figure out, when to sleep. Most people utilize traditional cardio. Not every guy uses cardio,
right.
And the training, the tanning, and then there's even specific tanning, like things that you put on for the actual show itself. Yeah. Painting yourself.
You're figuring
up a
it out
way.
now, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not even figuring it out. I'm going through it. I guess you'd say I'm working through the process. There's so much detail involved in it, and after years and years of powerlifting, obviously as a powerlifter, you do nothing but make fun of bodybuilding. That's just your stance. And as a powerlifter, you throw stones at everybody because that's just what we do. Because we rest for 10 minutes in between sets, and we got nothing better to do with our time than to hate on CrossFitters and people that are skinnier and prettier than us.
Right.
And so we just talk a bunch of trash, basically. But, after going through this process, holy shit, is it difficult? Like, it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
Did you step away from bodybuilding a little bit to make more room for your business practices
100%.
and then also family time?
100%.
You can't even, if you're getting ready for a show, you can't even really eat out with your family. You can't even just enjoy a dinner somewhere. You can just drink iced tea or something.
I started at 19. I learned it, and it was 2 weeks before my 20th birthday. And the guys at the gym were like, I'm training, getting ready for football. And I'm in college and going in my freshman and sophomore year in college. And I'm hardcore doing 40-yard sprints, And guy at the gym says, "Oh, there's a show this weekend. You should do it." And I'm like, "What show?" It's up at Old Orchard Beach in Maine, right? And I'm like, "What do I have to do?" They're like, "Oh, you just got to do these poses, this pose, and you got to come up with a 60-second routine to music." And I'm like, you know what? Why not? It was 8 days away or something, and I'm like, I could do it. Just got to shave and go up there, and I did it, and I came in 2nd place, and I got to tell you that not winning that was really frustrating. And even though I only prepped 8 days for it, I was really pissed off.
Yeah, because of all the training. Because you were still training a lot.
Oh, I was training, but the training I was going to do either way. You know, and then changing the training for bodybuilding, there had to be a change. Specific change. And I didn't really know that yet and didn't make it. But competing in that and coming in second place was good for me, because then I came back, and the next time that I was going to do it, I was going to do it full on. And I was really lucky because I was going to Springfield College where John Cena went. And we had a great weightlifting coach. He was a former AAU Mr. Universe. Oh, what's his name? Damn it. Jeff King. I don't know if you remember Jeff King. If anybody look out there and look at Jeff King should have been a Mr. Olympia. He was he was great body, known for his legs, arms. But he was our weightlifting coach, our football team weightlifting. And he put me on a 6-week diet. You know, because I asked him, I knew he was a competitor, and he put me on a 6-week diet. It was basically white rice, broccoli, and chicken. And for 6 weeks I went on it, and I won the Mr. Massachusetts in the Berkshire Classic, and in Massachusetts. And the feeling of winning that show after 6 weeks of preparation, and all I was thinking about, it was like, I'm used to playing football. We prep 1 week for a team, right? This was 6 weeks for one game, and it was a lot that was involved in that. And the high that I got from it obviously went on for another 20 years. Yeah.
6 weeks is a long time when it's every moment of every day.
Exactly.
That's what people may not understand that are listening, is that it's every single meal, and it's the preparation of even if you're going to a movie,
right?
That becomes like an event.
Of course.
You're coming here for the day. That becomes I need to bring my chicken. I need to bring my, and even though you're not competing, you still have the mindset, and you're still bringing healthy foods with you wherever you go.
Even though you're not weight training, you still got to, am I exerting too much energy? You know what I mean? Are these calories accounted for? Can I go to this wedding? What kind of food is going to be? Can I bring my food to the wedding?
It makes you nervous. Like, I'm going to sweat a lot.
I'm going to sweat. Yeah. Am I going to have to cut out of here early? I mean, it takes over your whole life. And in 2003, when I stepped away from competing, there were several things that made that happen. Losing to my brother for the first time. That was a big one. That was I wanted to pass off the torch.
Yeah. You guys competed against each other.
Yeah, we did. We competed a couple events, times, because he had just been smashing the lightweight classes and then bumping up every category until he became a middleweight and was in my category. And then and I think it was 2003 or 2000. Yeah, 2003.
Did you in some way feel good about that? I mean, obviously,
I did.
Obviously, you don't want your brother to beat you, but at the same time,
no. I had 20 years in already. You know what I mean? And so for me, close to it, 20 years.
Well, also too, I mean, he obviously you have amazing genetics, and obviously, when you're a pro bodybuilder, there's some other things involved, but with him, he has a Mr. Olympia body, which is kind of different, right?
Yeah, because I'm a little taller,
right,
and he's a little shorter and thicker.
Like, he's built to be one of the actual best in the world.
Oh, he's been one of the best in the world for 10 years.
That's insane.
And he's been in the top 3 at the Olympia consistently.
What's his name on Instagram? Boston Mass.
The Boston Mass.
Yeah, the Boston Mass. Yeah, he's just freaky big.
Yeah, and he was always like that. I mean, when he was 5 years old, we called him Bear. He had paws that were thick, hands, huge.
He was jacked when he was
jacked
a little
when he
kid.
was 5 years old. He used to make money for us. He would people wouldn't believe that he could do 5 years old. He could do pull-ups off the doorway sills, and he would scale up the doorway, clamp onto the top of the doorway, and bang out pull-ups.
Holy shit!
And we'd be making money. The other of it's you can't go down there. Somebody would throw down like 10 silver dollars in the deep end of the pool, and let's see if you can get all 10 of them and bring them back up. If you can do that, you can have it. And we were like, done.
Yeah,
in there, hold our breath for about 3 minutes, picking up every dollar and come back up.
I was at Gold's a couple days ago, and you were training somebody, and I noticed something that I thought was really cool and unique and special. And no one really gives a crap in there. I shouldn't say no one gives a crap. A lot of people don't give a crap. Like, they don't understand they're on sacred ground. This is the Mecca, and it should be treated with respect. And the people that train in there, they should be doing the best job they can to help keep the place clean, help keep the place nice, put weights away, be respectful to other people, buy some stuff from the store in the front every once in a while. Like, don't be a cheap ass. Don't be trying to sneak in there for free all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Little things. Not a big deal. Just try to, if you don't want to put money towards it, just try to help out in some way.
Respect. Yeah.
And take pride, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
But I saw your client was doing some stuff, and I noticed you coaching every rep, which I think is awesome. You're right there on top of the guy, and then he gets done, and you take a paper towel and you're wiping it down. And I have not seen one person wipe down anything in there since I've been in there for this whole month. And then there's a bunch of dumbbells scattered on the ground because it looked like you guys were doing like some supersets, or you guys were doing various exercises. Your client, boom, he hustles, he's grabbing the dumbbells and he's stacking them back in the rack. And then he comes back over and he's helping wipe down the bench as well.
Yeah, that's part of teaching them, you know. Like I said, like my job is to give you the skills, right, and to teach you, and to really show that I'm doing my job. We got to watch you do it on your own,
right?
Because if you can't do it on your own, like I'm not doing my job, right? And so that's what I try to instill in my people that I train is that, like, yeah, I don't want you to depend on me, right? I want to teach you and give you the skills so that you can then turn and teach somebody else.
Yeah. What if that same person takes their brother or their uncle or their mom to the gym and says, hey, this is what my trainer showed me. They take them through an exercise and say, yeah, when you leave a mess behind, you always clean it up.
Clean up after yourself.
You always put it back so that way it's set for the next person to use it.
It's routine. And you know what? And everybody that I work with, they don't know any different. That's how they know. That's the etiquette. And this is something that since day one, since I've been at Gold's Gym Venice, that I think that everybody should be handed a gym etiquette book.
Yeah.
Right? It's because you know what?
To write one.
Because common sense is not common sense anymore.
No, it's not.
You know, unfortunately, that's the reality of our world. You know,
common sense and just things like consistency. Those things they become spectacular.
Yeah.
And they kind of shouldn't be, right?
Right.
But like, hey man, like you're doing so good, you show up on time all the time.
Yeah,
it's
like that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You work hard every time you're here. It's like,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you should be working hard. Also in Gold's Gym, there's a lot of trainers in there. There's a lot of different people, and you probably won't allow me to give you credit for it, but just in talking to a lot of the people in there, I know, just from hearing different people say different things, I've heard many, many people in there say, Tito Raymond's the guy. Like if you want to go and you want to get in shape, you want to train hard, and you want to be shown what's up, and you want to be shown, how it's done, then he's the best trainer. How have you developed a reputation like that?
I think it's just the way I lead my life, and I've not known it any other way than to lead by example. Live your life the way that you, like we talked earlier, treat others the way you want to be treated. And it means a lot to me that my peers, and my peers say those things. And,
right.
The one thing that I say is, success can be measured in many different ways. I have never been one where, monetarily means is a success for me. That doesn't mean anything. You can be a billionaire and still be really poor in other things.
Yeah, you can still be a prick.
Right? and that's not success. What kind of success is that? You have all the money in the world and then you die and somebody else inherits that money, whatever. But the success is like the feelings that you leave behind in people and how they feel about you.
Right.
Because we're not going to be here forever. And, our memories and our, what we've done and how we treated people and the respect, that is, I feel, that's how I want to measure my success,
And you've been a trainer in there for 20 plus years.
Yeah, coming on 20 now.
Doing it day in and day out. Are there times where you lose a little zip or lose a little motivation, or has there ever been a time where you lose a little bit, like maybe when you first had your kids or something, like were you tired or like?
Never.
You love it.
I can honestly tell you, I never. It's just one of those things.
I've never seen it. I always see you high energy.
Yeah, I you know what? I was lucky to be able to go to Springfield College. It's a big physical education school. I got to pick and choose what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I got to see through all my younger years, people with different occupations. I was a demolition. I had every job that you can think of. I was a dishwasher at 13. You know, I had a paper route at 12. I had 2 of them. I had a good work ethic from an early age.
Paper route means you're waking up super early.
Yeah, delivering 58 papers. Yeah, holding the newspaper bag over my forehead, and that's how I think I got my neck. You know, from 12 years old, holding 58 papers on my head with only both hands on the handlebars.
Yeah.
You know, the newspaper bag on my forehead.
And in Massachusetts, it's probably freezing.
Oh yeah, early in the morning. But from that, I got to do a lot of shoveling jobs where, like, if we had a snow day, I could easily go out and make $400.
Yeah.
Cash. You know, shoveling driveways. In the summer, I'd mow people's lawns. So in the
huge
autumn,
deal when you're a kid to be able to make that kind of cash.
I would rake leaves. I would do whatever I needed to do, you know, to get means.
Right.
And what were we talking about?
We're just talking about like some of the history you have with kind of building some of this discipline. But let's move on anyway. So, you know, I think one of the things that's important about you is that you lead by example. You're always in shape. You're always strong. You're always able to do these weird, crazy things. Now, you like to go in the ocean, but not too long ago, you got stuck out there.
I did.
And you ended up, you know, for lack of a better term, you ended up in some deep water.
I had to get rescued. I had to get rescued by 2 lifeguards in a jet ski. It was it was like an undertow rip current, and I was totally chilled and relaxed and just floating out in the water. And I'm a pretty good swimmer. I feel like I'm a pretty good swimmer. I've been swimming my whole life, and we live a mile from the ocean. So I was out there just chilling. I didn't have to worry about my kids. They were on the beach with my wife. So I was floating and hanging out with surfers. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, I'm way out here. And I'm watching this old Hawaiian dude teach this girl how to surf. And then I was like, after about 3 or 4 of her attempts to take a wave, I said, okay, I'm going to swim back in. I tried to come in, got hammered by a wave, got pushed under and pulled back out, tried again. And then I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Let me sit back and observe from a distance what's going on here.
Reevaluate. Maybe I need to swim a different direction or something.
Exactly. So then I backed out, and at that time, they had already seen me attempt to come in. So they already started sending lifeguards out to me. And I go over to the old Hawaiian dude, and I'm like, hey, buddy, can I borrow your boat, your surfboard? And he's like, yeah, man. And he pulls it over to me, and we just having a conversation and talking. I look up, and I see everybody on the beach is looking at me. And in the lifeguard, he gets to me, and he has me let go of the surfboard. And I'm like, I'm totally cool and calm. It was just one of those things. Like, if the lifeguards weren't there, I was going to chill out, observe the situation, and take a different approach, and I would have came in. So, but it was too late. These guys were already on their way. Let them do their job. So the guy calls in the jet ski because it was pretty bad. And the jet ski comes over. He turns around, has me hop on a little board behind him, and then the lifeguard jumps on top of me, right? And then he goes, go. And then right when he went to go, it was too heavy in the back, and the wave lifted us, and the jet ski and me and the 2 lifeguards underneath got dumped under. The whole thing flipped under. And then he had to do it again. And then this time, the jet ski had to come around, right? And I'm holding on to the little lifeguard thing. And then this time the jet ski guy comes over and goes, let him get on by himself. And then I hopped on by my own, and then he pulled me in.
Shit.
And you know what? It might have been scary from the beach looking at me, but I was never in a panic mode.
Right.
I was like, again, I was really mentally strong,
right,
relaxing, observe the whole area.
But you were a little bit like, how is this going to pan out?
Yeah. How's it going to pan out? And you know what? And like I said, if the lifeguards weren't there, I would have then recognized, I need to go out and swim around this rip current. But it was embarrassing. My wife got it all on film, and she's like, oh, you thought you were a good swimmer, huh?
Yeah, she's making fun of you.
Yeah, muscle mother nature.
If the guy surfing wasn't there, then it might have been...
That would have been a different story.
Yeah,
if I didn't get a chance to rest, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I train myself a lot. I do a lot of HIIT circuits, and where I get to that point to where I'm physically exhausted and I still have to continue. And, and you just relax,
right,
take an inventory, right?
Yeah, am I okay?
Am I okay? Yeah.
Why do you train yourself to that point?
I don't know. I think that it's not until I get to that point where I get my endorphin release, and it's a great feeling. And I can translate that into something else.
You're right.
For instance, not panicking in a rip current.
Yeah, I think it helps tremendously too with coping skills.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps tremendously with being able to decipher just crap information from other people. You know, sometimes somebody will tell you something, they'll say, it helps you kind of pick out like what's good and what's shitty.
Right.
Like it just makes things easier because you know how hard you go, and you know the intensity that it takes to get up on a bodybuilding stage. And so you know a good bodybuilding coach when you see one.
Yeah.
You know a good bodybuilder when you see one. You know a good football player when you see one. You know when somebody's a good person when you see one, because they have just they got a certain way about them that is reflective of a lot of the things that you've already been talking about.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get to those things without a lot of discipline. And I think the training and the food, as meathead as it sounds, without those things, sometimes it's hard to find the discipline in other areas of your life for it to make sense, unless it's, I think that being physical, I think, needs to be part of everybody's life in some way.
Absolutely. And like you said, like there's so many ways where, you know, what we do in the gym can translate over into a normal life.
You can't really get there any other way.
No.
You know, there's not a drug, there's not a thing that you can take.
No.
To where you're like, oh, this feels like the way I feel when I did 150 reps of body weight squats in a row or something.
Yeah, when I thought I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
And my friend, my trainer, my whoever made me keep going. You know, and
that's a wild spot to be in when you literally think you have nothing left and you do a few more, and then sometimes it is like kind of a bad idea. You're like, you end up in a really bad in a really bad spot, and you're like, oh, okay, that was a little too much.
Yeah. Yesterday we're doing box jumps, and we're doing box jumps in a 30-inch box after exhausting ourselves with single arm snatches, dumbbell snatches, and then kettlebell swings. So, you know, the heart rate's up there.
Yeah.
And so I kept yelling at my boys, training with two guys. I kept telling them, relax, take your time,
breathe,
don't rush. Like, you know, we're doing 10 reps. I want you to do them, but I want you to do one at a time. You know, and then when you're at 9, you take an extra breath, you finish it off. No injuries. It was a success, right?
Get your feet up as high as you can, even though the box is 30 inches. Jump 34 inches.
Oh,
right?
Same guy that I was with yesterday. A couple years ago, we're doing a similar workout. He doesn't take his time. He rushes. He hits his shins and bleeding, but it didn't stop him. He kept going.
Because he's a savage. Because you got to get it done.
You got to get it done. Yeah.
So you also have being athletic and being able to move around and do some of these crazy things. You got 2 artificial hips now.
Yeah. This August will be 2 years from my first hip replacement, and then December will be from the second hip.
You're like my brother. You walk around like a robot.
You know what? Your brother had a lot to do with my success, having watched him go through what he went through, and he went through way more than I did. Mine was very simple. Mine was also, 10 years later than his. Yeah. And so the technology was way more accurate. The science, the methodology behind it, and I think I had an anterior approach where they opened. I don't know where your brother's was.
Yeah,
in front or back, but it they didn't hit any tissue, right? So if you think about it, they just replaced parts, right? They didn't cut any of my muscle. They didn't cut any tendons. They just moved and stretched it and irritated it for a couple days. Yeah. I mean, I was walking. I had to, in order to get out of the hospital, you had to be able to walk up and down stairs. But I tell you that whatever they told me to do, I did it. They told me to do it, 1 or 2 times a day. I was doing it 4 to 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Right. They told me that, want you to be able to walk a mile, work up to walking a mile. I doubled it and went to walking 2 miles, right. And then still to this day, I do all my routine that I was doing for rehab for my hips, because it's, you take it for granted until it's taken away. And I mean, you use your hips for everything.
It's demoralizing when it's taken away. It's
absolutely.
It's like, holy shit, I'm getting old. Like, what's happening? I'm falling apart.
Yeah. I mean, and to be able to look down at my leg and not be able to flex my quad, or to see how much my ass shrunk, and that to build my ass took years, squatting and deadlifting and lunging.
Atrophy because they're not involved.
They just disappeared. You put on a pair of jeans that used to be tight and they're sliding down you. It was, I lost 2 inches off my leg. Shit. And I don't know how much off my ass, but I assume about 2 inches off my ass too. And it took about a year to be able to build up to doing good weight that would actually build for me. You know what I mean?
Right. And
because I've had the experience of doing it the first time, I just, had to be more patient with the recovery. And, what took, 20 years just took me 2 years to get back up to, like I said, and my goal was to get to be able to do 400 pounds. Right. And, I'm getting closer to that on the squat. The deadlift has always been my big lift. So that's really coming along nice. I'm probably close to 500 now. I haven't attempted it. But nice. And I don't know if I will attempt ever 500 again. Right. But I will try 400 for 15.
Right. Are you in pain nowadays?
I have no pain. I have no pain. Great. I've the one thing that I think that I led to my success is that I was very thorough in all my workouts and my training. And I always had a warm up. I always stretched. I always
Hearn's really smart with his workouts. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think a lot of times people just think that he just trains balls to the wall all the time, but they don't really understand a lot of the stuff that he does is there's a lot of extra range of motion to some of the movements that he does.
Right.
And when you look at it as an outsider, you're like, yeah, that's a dumb exercise because you're going to get injured. But if you just use the appropriate weight, it actually ends up being like he'll do a lateral raise. Well, rather than just going up to like the ear, he'll come all the way up
over his head,
over his head. But it's like, hey, if that hurts, just use 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And now you have a nice range of motion. You're moving your arms. They were meant to move that way.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that full range of motion type of stuff is something that can really save a lot of people. Is that a lot of the stuff that you did?
Yeah, always full range, always really controlling both parts of the lift.
Yeah.
The descent and, the explosion on a deadlift. On a bench press, the descent and the explosion.
Right.
Controlling it, like time under tension. And I think that was just something that me as a 12-year-old down in my basement, that's something that I started doing back then, just to show dominance of it. And I still tell my clients now when we're training, dominate the rep, right?
Like show off. Like show me what's up. Like go for it.
Right. And in both directions. That way that you're not overusing anything.
Right. So nowadays you're a dad. Is this the hardest thing that you've had to?
It's the best thing that I've
had to do.
Yeah. You know what? I'm proud of my boys. You get out of it what you put into it, and that's just like everything in life. Being a dad is the best thing in the world.
It's tough to make time for everything though, right?
It is.
Because you got your own training, you have a lot of clients, and these clients, they're probably texting you and emailing you, and there's probably a lot of communication because they're trying to diet and they're trying to be better, and you're trying to motivate. Yeah. So it's got to be hard to figure out when do I put down the phone and hang out with the kids, or you might be, wanting to stretch or foam roll or do whatever, and your kids are in a different room reading, and you're kind of thinking, oh shit, we should probably all be hanging out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just cognitive. You got to really be there mentally. You got to be, present and aware, and just, what you said is exactly right. Like, people who, don't succeed in parenting, it's going to affect all of us.
Yeah.
We're seeing that now with the millennials. Like, I think those were failed parenting, and I see it now with having children, and even when my kids were super little, I'm super aware of everything. And I think that that's just from my upbringing, being aware of my surroundings, like peripheral vision. And that's why it helped me as an athlete. Being at the playground and being aware of every person that's at that playground. And then not only being aware of every person at that playground, are they with children? Are they without children?
Weird creeper.
Are they, exactly. I mean, I no tolerance for creepers, right? And I noticed that not everybody parents the same. And, our kids will come home and my friend, gets to play video games every day. And I'm like, do you want to go live with them?
Right.
Right? Or do you want to stay here? Right? This is the way we do things.
Well, there's also there's a lot of time later on for all that stuff. As the kids get older and they start venturing off and doing some of their own things, or they're out of the house even, right?
Yeah.
Like, do whatever you want when you're older. You know what I mean?
That's what we tell them. When you're 18, you can make kind of those decisions.
Yeah. When you're in our house, let's just have you try to do something more productive.
Exactly.
And you know what happens too is like, people that are listening to this right now that have a hard time with their kids with electronics and tablets and phones and things like that. You don't have to be a maniac about it, but at the same time, pull these things away from your kids. It's the best thing you can do for them. Pull some of the junk food away from them.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to. You might have different principles or ideas of how that looks for your child.
Right.
And I would say there isn't really a right and wrong.
Right.
But you'll notice that when you pull these electronics away from them, what do they end up doing? They end up playing.
Playing, talking, conversing.
They go outside and maybe they beat the hell out of each other and one kid's crying or whatever. Yeah. So what? Right. And I think that's the problem right now with parents is that they just want to give it to their kid because it's easier.
Because that's what the kids want.
Because the kids
and then it's easier on the parents, right?
I see their parents on the phone too much too. And that's something that my wife and I try to concentrate on too is like, this is not a good message. They're asking us for stuff. They're my son, like he might not do good in school or like there might be a situation and I'll just sit down with him. I'll say, what do you need? You got me. I'm here. What do you need? How can I help? How can I, was I not around enough? Was I like working too much? Like, how do we flatten this all out? How do we straighten this out? Or are you just not doing your homework because you fucking hate school like every other kid.
Right. I mean, the thing right there is communication. Just you asking your child, what do you need? Is communicating. And I think that, that there's a lot less of it because of modern technology. Your youngest
throws a pencil across the room and it hits your oldest in the face. It's like, he obviously is like looking for somebody to say something to him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe you're down texting or whatever you're doing. Yeah. It's like, okay, now... What are you guys doing? You don't normally act like that. Like, what's going on?
Right. And just being aware. And, having boys, the boys need a physical. And because we were boys, we know. Yeah. We need a physical outlet, whatever physicality it is, whether it's, wrestling, climbing, swimming, running, lifting weights, whatever it is, they need an outlet.
They need something like that. Your kids, are in the water a lot, right?
Yeah, my kids are in the water. They're on swim team. They're junior lifeguard program.
Kid could save your life next time you're stuck out there.
Yeah, I believe my 13-year-old could.
Being a lifeguard's no joke.
No joke. And this program that they're in is the best program in the world. I think second.
In the ocean is brutal.
Australia is second, and this junior lifeguard program in LA County. They continue this program. They can become county lifeguards, where they get really good benefits. They get really good salary. And if they wanted to, they could just do the summers. And this is prepping from after high school when they go to college. And then they come home and they have a job to do. That where they're in the summer that they can make 15, 20 grand. And then go back off to college.
Insane.
Right?
That's such good money when you're so young, Yeah. He's 13, right?
Yeah.
At 13, will he have some opportunities to make some money, or is it like kind of a freebie thing until?
Not yet. You have to finish the program, and I think it's from 13 to 17. My youngest is 9, and he's in the program, and so he's going to be in it a lot longer than my older one is. But I think it ends at 16.
Okay.
And then after 16, you become a cadet.
Right.
And then after the cadet, then you can become a lifeguard.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
It's really cool. And especially because we live here. We have a pool, and when both my boys were born, they were in the pool in the backyard within months of when they were born. And because my oldest was born in July, he was in the pool earlier. And Cruz was born in December, so we waited a little longer before we got him in the pool. But both of them, the main priority was just to get them relaxed and comfortable in the water.
Right. Do you guys travel much as a family? You get a chance to go on vacations or do anything like that?
Because
some people do and some people don't.
Yeah, because of our kids, it's all about our kids and their schooling. And, because we just got into a new school district, we don't want them to miss any school days. So, the opportunities that we may get are like maybe 3-day vacations and then maybe one for a week, a year. And we love Hawaii. That's where we were married. And we've been back there probably 10 times.
Oh, wow.
Since we've been married. We're going on our 16th wedding anniversary. And our kids know Hawaii very well. And again, that's a lot of reason that we want to make sure that they're really good swimmers.
Yeah. Yeah, so they can enjoy those beaches out there.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean the waves out there are a lot stronger than they are here.
Oh my God, yeah, they're huge. Yeah, my wife and I we get a pretty good opportunity for vacations now that both kids are a little older. You know, my oldest is 15 and my daughter is 10, and it just makes it they're more portable now. You know, when they were young and they were
it's so much easier.
crapping their pants and
You have to bring a portable crib. You have to bring 2 strollers. You have to bring car seats. It wasn't easy. I was a pack mule.
And now we really live for the vacations. It's I mean, not that I live for time off, because I don't ever really have time off anyway, because I always mix work together.
You can work
with
when you're away, yeah.
And I think that's a decent way to marry all these things together, is to be inclusive. I love for people to meet the people that I know, and not only meet the people I know. And part of the reason for this podcast and part of the reason for my gym and some of these things is so that people can not only know the people that I know, but they can know them the way that I know them.
Right.
So this is a good introduction to you and your family and all the things that you overcame, you know, to become who you are. And it gives people better perspective, because if it's just me talking about what I'm doing, it's not as exciting, you know?
Yeah.
But I also like to include my family on a lot of this. So that way, let's just say hypothetically that 2 months from now, you're like, hey, got this event going on. I'm kicking off this thing with my business. Why don't you come down to LA? Well, now I'll say, hey, remember Tito and his wife and his kids that came over? Remember that?
Yeah.
I'm going to go down to LA for a day. I'm going to be back. And then now it's more inclusive. Now everybody understands there's not anything weird going on. There's no side thing going on. This is what's happening. You already met these people. You're already comfortable with them. You liked them when they came over, and this is how it goes.
It's communication, right?
Right.
You know, and it's you know, you're an open book.
Right.
And that's how we all should be, you know. My kids know all about it, and they give me a hard time about being on my phone, because I'm at work most of the time. And then when they do see me, you know, it's very little amount of time, not as much as I would like. But they, you know, and I have, you know, answer text messages or emails or, you know, or post something. And so we have a basket right in the front door, right when you front the front door, and we put our phone in the basket. You know, and especially during dinner time, like this is the time where we're going to be talking and, you know, to each other, and there's not going to be any distractions, because I think that's what these tech devices are, the distraction from a reality. They
are. Who's more important than who's in your house?
Yeah, nobody.
But at the same time, it's hard, because somebody might say, hey, I got to cancel that 5 o'clock appointment tomorrow. And if you missed that text and you woke up at 3 to get there at 5, and you need to be there until 8, then it's really disheartening, right? So it's hard to organize it all. It's hard to make sense of it. Something that I learned that really has helped me is just that these things are just not that urgent. And so that has helped a lot. Like, you know what? Just relax. Like, you don't need to communicate back to somebody within 3 minutes.
Right. Exactly.
It could be 4 hours or 6 hours. It's okay. And some things are more pressing than others, but don't flip out about it.
Exactly. You don't sweat the small stuff. You know, the big stuff is right in front of you. You know, and what happened to your children that day that may affect them for the rest of their life. So you want to know everything that happens to them. You know, and one of my questions to my kids is, how was your day?
Right.
You know, and another one was, what was your best part of your day?
I don't know.
Then I try to really get details. You know, and I'm like,
how was school?
Well, what did you do? You know, what did you learn today? You know, how did you who'd you play with today?
You know what works for me with my son is to get him engaged in something active, and then he'll talk.
Yeah.
So I learned that if we are like, hey man, let's go for a walk, and we'll go for a walk, and you know, just dudes, like sometimes guys don't talk that much.
Right.
Like, I don't know about how your conversations are on the phone, but like if I talk to my dad, especially like years ago, now it's better, you know, because you have a better understanding of your parents and stuff as you get older. But like I would talk to my mom for like 30 minutes, you know, and I'd talk to my dad and he'd be like, how's it going? I'd be like, good. And he's like, all right, I love you. And I was like, I love you too, Dad.
Short
And boom,
and
it was over, right? And there was never deep conversations with him at all. He's an amazing dad, but there was never deep conversations. And with my son, I noticed kind of the same pattern. So I was kind of thinking like, how do I get him to like just talk? I don't expect him to share like, hey man, I tried a cigarette today. Like I don't expect that kind of stuff or whatever the hell he's doing or up to. But I noticed that just by going on a walk, we'll just go on a walk around the neighborhood. We might walk for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah. All of a sudden, man, halfway through, he's just going, like, I can't stop him. I'm almost like, man, this is a mistake. He's unloading on me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. My kid's the same way. And, you know, but that's what we're here for. That's right. You know, we're changing the cycle of, you know, we're using what we had growing up and what we thought was accurate and correct and making adjustments accordingly, you know, because, you know, our kids aren't going to be exactly like us.
Right.
You know, we had different times and environment and, you know, like.
Isn't all that funny? Like, hey, man, are they lifting? Like your friends,
exactly,
right? You're like, dude, that's the last thing I care. I mean, sure, it'd be fun if they did, right?
Right, yeah. I kept telling people, you know, like when he's 18, 16, 17, if he wants, he knows where to go. He knows, you know, it's just out in the garage. We have a gym, you know.
Right.
He came in one time to the gym and he loved it. He had a good time. I brought him through a circuit, and it just hasn't been something he wanted to do again. He's
like man, his heart's beating. He's breathing. He's happy.
He's active. Anyways.
He's learning shit.
Yeah, he's got so much on his plate. He's a musician. He's an artist. He reads 700-page books like it's nothing.
He came in with a giant book,
and he'll read that within 2 days. Like he is. You know, and I'm not going to push something on him that I wanted. You know what I mean?
Son, you need bigger traps. Look, man, you got to get in there. You got to start doing your shrugs now. Well, what are we doing?
The one thing that I did want him to do was I wanted him to compete in something. Right. Compete. I just wanted him to compete.
That makes sense.
Unfortunately, like everything I got in life, I had to really work hard for. Right. So, my son, I basically, he doesn't have to work hard for anything, you know, because I want to give him everything, right? But he understands.
He's not living with as much shit going on either.
Exactly, but he understands, and it's because of his parents. We let him know, you know, the value of $1. You know, he knows the value of $1. So my oldest, he doesn't ask for anything. You know, we give him everything. My little one, he wants things.
My kids are the same way,
right?
But my daughter will pick out something that's $180, right, and my son will pick out like a Nerf football.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And but as long as they understand and you teach them, you know, values like that, you know. And I think, like again, we talk about. I think that we lose a lot of those skills from lack of parenting. I mean, you know, the values you get from your parents, right? They teach you right from wrong, right? And then some people who may not have parents around at that early age, they may have you know, a neighbor, a coach, a teacher, somebody else who's going to teach them those values and teach them right from wrong. And that's all. Like I said earlier, I measure my success through what I leave behind, and a lot of that's going to be my 2 kids. You know,
that's awesome.
And are they good people? Are they an asset to society? Or are they, you know,
that's my goal with my kids. I'm like, just don't be a dick.
Just don't be an asshole, right? That's it. Yeah. Be a good human.
Doesn't have to be any more difficult than that.
Right.
People that are listening to this right now that have gone through some hard times, that have really struggled. Maybe there's some younger guy listening to this right now that's depressed and had a hard time as a kid growing up. What's something that they can maybe hang on to? Like, how were you able to survive?
I think that, you know, what's in between your ears, you know, and in your head, nobody can take that from you. You know, having mental fortitude and
it's your own safe spot.
You know, being mentally tough and, you know, taking yourself to some other place, a happy place. You know, if you need to let it out, go to the gym, you know, and you will see that, you know, everything's going to be okay. You know, I was fortunate that I had a lot of things that, you know, from young childhood, a lot of the things that I had the outlet of sports and the weight room. And I didn't need a partner. I didn't need anybody there. To go down in my basement and to hit the
fired
heavy
up
bag.
as it was.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times whenever there was a time where I could lose it and something bad happened, I would just go down in the basement and pound on the heavy bag and bench press and, and then after about an hour or two of doing that, I come out of it and I realize I'm much calmer now. Now that was bothering me and aggravating me earlier, didn't mean anything. I told a story to my wife. I'm in foster care with my parents that adopted me, and we had relatives come over for the holiday, Christmas, and they forgot about me. They brought presents for everybody. I was 11 years old, right? Very sad. I was aggravated.
Yeah.
And I could have been angry, but instead of being angry, I just went down into the basement and I lifted and I made sense of it. You know what I mean? In my head, I had conversations. I'm like, well, you know what? I always felt like you don't know the whole story. Maybe they just forgot about you. I mean, it's a, you know what I mean?
It can happen. Yeah. Life's not always fair. Things don't always work out.
Exactly. And so it's not a big deal. In the big picture of everything, it's not a big deal.
That's all the time we got. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Where can people find you?
Tito Raymond, Instagram.
There we go.
I'm kind of old school. I don't have Facebook, but on Instagram, it's at Tito Raymond.
All right, guys. See you later.
Peace.
Thank you, buddy.